wish that I knew what I know now. When I was younger. Did you notice the first words of your book? Obviously you know. Do you know the song?
I know those lyrics, yeah.
All right, it's Ooh La La from Rod Stewart.
Yeah.
I wish that I knew what I know now, when I was younger and when I was stronger. That's the opening line of Shane Watson's book. It's called The Winner's Mindset. Absolutely incredible read, full of alpha, full of amazing stories, insights, techniques to enhance the mental strength that you need, not only in cricket or in sport, but also in life. Watto, congratulations, mate. Actually, like, really amazing. I didn't read word for word. It's a summary that I've got going here.
Yep.
I'm going to read it over the next week because it's not going to take me too long. And I think that's the best part of it all. It's really good insight, but it's nice and short and sweet. Was that part of the game plan?
It was, yeah. It's more so just putting together like a mental performance workshop that I do as well. Just putting it into a written format to make it more accessible to people, as accessible as possible. That's the beauty of books. But it was always not to be like having to read like volumes and volumes of encyclopedias. It wanted to be nice and concise, but also in hopefully every page just about there's something you can take away that you can try and apply in your own way that you're trying to perform. No. And the beauty of this book is the core information, the mental skills information, it's universal to every part of your life because we're all trying to perform in every aspect of our life. The cricket example is just there to sort of just connect the dots a little bit easier for people, hopefully.
No, I think you got it spot on. 250 odd pages. Anything more than that becomes a bit of an effort to get through it all. You know, it all changed in 2015, if I remember the date correctly, with by chance meeting at a rugby league awards dinner. You met a guy called Will Power, IndyCar, very successful IndyCar driver, and I mean, just tell me about that night. You guys immediately clicked. As I read, you immediately started talking about a struggle that both of you are going through. He lost a good friend on the racing track. We all know what the cricketing world went through with the loss of a dear friend. So what was the chemistry that night and how did it all sort of happen?
Yeah, so it's amazing how, like, in certain moments in your life, just how sliding doors moments occur and just the right person appeared at that very moment. I went to a rugby leagues award that I normally would never go to. I've never been before and never been after. So it's just one random event that I went to. And I was sitting next to Will Power, who was presenting an award as well at the Rugby League Awards. And I just started talking to him about how cool it must be to be a racing car driver. And he said it was very cool, but he was sort of at a stage where he was really struggling to get into the car, even though just won the IndyCar championship as well. That his body was getting adrenal fatigue, so his body was starting to shut down because of an experience that he had with one of his best mates getting killed in a race, like a month or so ago before that. And for me, I'd been sort of going through all those different sort of thoughts and emotions over the previous 8 or 9 months after the tragedy that we all, the tragedy of Phil Hughes passing away on the cricket field. And so I'd been dealing with my own way, trying to deal with that in some way, but it was having a huge impact on my ability to be able to perform. So he, in the end, he said, I'm working with a guy he works with people who, if they mentally make a mistake, it can be the difference between life and death. So he really understands how to make people understand the things that you're in control of from a thoughts perspective, the things that you're not in control of. He said, so he's really helped me sort of get into the car and have more of an understanding of how to be able to try and control my thoughts to still perform at my best. So he connected me up with Dr. Jacques Dallaire, who's based in North Carolina, in Charlotte. And I had a half an hour conversation before I sort of made the decision whether I was going to fly over to see him. And the half an hour conversation was just stuff I hadn't talked to anyone about before. Well, they hadn't talked to me about, around just like mindset and about certain things you're in control of that you're not. And it just resonated in a huge way. It was like a light bulb going off. So I'm like, okay, I'm nowhere. I'm gonna retire where I'm at the moment because my performances have gone way away from my best. I've got nothing to lose, so I flew over, spent 2 days with Jacques going through his information, and every moment along the journey of those 2 days, just like light bulbs going off left, right, and centre, going, oh my God, where has this information been throughout my life, throughout my career, just to be able to understand the mental side of us as humans, to be able to just create the right mental environment to get out of our own ways, to be able to just let our skills that we work so hard for, spend like thousands and thousands of hours on developing our technical skills.
Sure.
To be able to access those when you need to, especially under pressure, when your performances are important. Oh. So implementing that information, flying back from the US, I just knew straight away that I could implement this and turn things around. So within 6 weeks of like diligently working through every day what my thoughts were, what my training sessions were, what I was working on, especially with the short ball in particular, doing that for 6 weeks, then I knew I was absolutely ready to go. So then that was the end of 2015, and then throughout the next 4.5 years, I had some of the best performances of my career. Yeah. And the books is just a culmination of that information he taught me. Then we went into business together, doing workshops together. Me applying that information in the real world, like out in the middle for 4 years, and then him teaching me how to teach it as well.
Sure.
Which has turned into the book.
I wish that I knew what I know now.
Yes.
But it's never too late, and that's the beauty of life. It really is never too late. And even though you picked it up a bit later in your career, it still had a huge impact on your performances, on your happiness out there on the pitch, ultimately scoring that incredible century for CSK in that final of the IPL, one of the best hundreds I've ever seen. He was on nought after 11 deliveries. It wasn't part of my script, but just quickly on that knock, let's just quickly touch on that, because now we've sort of gone through a bit of the difficult phases and how you, and we'll dig a little bit more into Dr. Jacques Dalaire's techniques. It's all in this book. So many techniques that I went through that you can apply to your life and also in sport. But that knock for CSK in that final, was that sort of some of the techniques that you used, being naught of 11, Fafi just getting out? How did you sort of break through the mental barrier there?
So that innings was a culmination of the previous couple of years of like working through all this information and applying it, and also having some like shocking performances I had to like mentally work through as well, like the 2016 final for RCB. Like bowling wise, that was one of my worst performances I've ever had, and it had such a huge bearing on the outcome for my team. And the 2018 final was because of what I learned from that time, where I just wanted to dig myself into a hole and not come out. To then work through, okay, in the next time I get an opportunity like this, what are the things that I could do better and differently, one from a technical point of view, from a mental skills point of view. And that 2018 final was just a culmination of pulling myself into that ultimate zone, that ultimate performance state that we're all trying to pull ourselves into. I know you experience it a lot of times, that zone space where you just dream you could be in all the time. That just seems like you're on autopilot, even though you're fully engaged. It's like you're on autopilot. And for me, I had those performances throughout my career, but it was by chance. It was like all the circumstances perfectly aligning to me, then just falling into that space. Whereas this innings was one where I was just every single ball, every moment I was working on pulling myself into that space. After it was about 7 or 8 balls in, Faf got out playing a shot because I'd soaked up so many balls. Not trying to, but every ball I was working through, okay, what happened that ball, technically, mentally, and just working through every single ball just to stay present. And even when Faf got out, that was like that little man on my shoulder was like, you caused that. Like, what was that? That was you, because you haven't got away. But it was me going, no, when I'm at my best, that I don't have those thoughts at all. I've got to be present. What do I have to do right now? And just kept doing it over and over again to a point there. Then I got into that space, and once you get there, then you just stay present and try and do anything you can to stay in there. And that was just a culmination of all that. But that was really the first time where I actually pulled myself into it. It wasn't just a circumstance around me just made me fall into it. I actually, ball by ball, moment by moment, I was pulling myself into that space. And then, that's a performance that I dreamed of as a kid.
You were quoted in this book, and it was one of the nicest pieces I've read in this book. Everyone's so stuck up with reverse sweeps and caramballs and doos-ras and all sorts of fancy stuff, and everyone's asking like, what's the next thing in cricket? And you say, the next step in cricket is training the mind so that you can execute better under pressure and perform the team game plans more consistently. And talk a little bit about that, because I fully agree.
Yeah. There's a lot of different things are in play now, and there has been over the last probably 10 years. So from a physical point of view, there's been a lot of like experts come into cricket and help push the limits from a physical perspective, from a bowlers, from a batters, keepers, and in general, right? The technique continues to evolve by some crazy stuff that people do and then makes the bar like a little bit different and keeps raising that bar from a technical perspective and what's actually possible. But the one thing that isn't really talked about that much and really hasn't been pushed to the limit at all is around the mental side of the game. In cricket in general, it wasn't until I sort of went through and learnt this information, I never had these types of conversations with people around, what are you actually thinking about as a bowl's running in? What are you actually thinking about as a ball's about to be bowled? I played with all like these great players through my time playing for Australia. I never asked them those questions until after I learnt this information. I actually want to know what they did.
We're too proud to ask and to communicate. Yeah.
But we talk about technical side of things and physical side of things. But we never actually ask about what do you do and why are you doing it. And that for me is so profound, because it's something that you don't really pass on that information, and that's where knowing how critically important it is when we all break down our best performances, when we've had a great performance, but also when we haven't. A big part of it, one part can be technical, sure. If our technique's slightly off, then we don't execute our skill because our technique's slightly off. But a big part of it is actually where our mind's at in the lead up to that moment, but especially when we're actually trying to execute the skill. But we always see people say, for example, a captain, it was the wrong bowling change for the death over, the last over of the innings. And so it was just actually the wrong bowling change. So the guy who came on didn't execute his skill. Was probably the right bowling change, but you need to help that individual have an understanding how to best have the right thoughts at the right time to give himself the best chance of executing their skill under pressure. That for me is absolutely the next step, and the fortunate part now of being able to get this book out there, but also coach these even at a higher level around the IPL and some of the franchise tournaments. That's where you see the most impact. Because one, you can see what they are working on, and then when it's slightly off, it's not so much their technique, it's how engaged they are, the right thoughts at the right time. But the other thing is, it's how then they debrief a game. So then it's more clinical in how they debrief a game. What happened, why did it happen, and what can I do in the lead up to the next game to do it better?
Sure. It's actually such a bad system growing up, and you touch on a point in the middle there where you listen to a commentator saying, it was a wrong bowling change. And for the poor 20-year-old sitting at home that night watching the highlights, that's what he hears, and that's what gets stuck in his mind, and that's what he believes. And meanwhile, there was just a little mental error, perhaps the way of thinking wasn't completely right. And it takes me to communication and how important that is growing up, and having an open door to people who are actually there to help you and to sort of mentor you through tough phases. I remember growing up, I was sort of labelled as a white ball cricketer, and that's it. So that's what I believed. From 19 till 21, 22, I honestly believed that because I play so many strokes, that's all I can play. They didn't even look at me for 4-day cricket or test matches, which I did break through finally, through a bit of luck, but ultimately it was so impactful to hear that. So I believed that until I was about 24, 25, and then only started going, you know what, there's a way to get through this. And I did it by myself, but it could have been so much faster had I had the skills and the techniques to not listen to all the nonsense and not to believe everything that I hear. Yeah. Anyway, so communication on page 80, Albert Merabian talks about the 7:38:55 rule. I know we had a bit of a moment in the middle where you told me you're going to take a bowler down. I told you let's take a bit deeper. And not knowing the impact that would have at the time in the middle, I thought it was literally just we both know if we stay a bit longer, we're going to demolish these guys. And I had no idea that communication could be so powerful. So it's a bit of a wake-up call for me as well, which I did discover with someone like a JP Duminy throughout my career, also had the similar kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where he told me you must think what you say in the middle because it can have a huge impact on the other guy. So I understood it from a receiving end. When a Graham told me you can play, if you're going to win this game, I believed it. But I never realised with my own words can have such a big impact. What is this rule, the 738-55, and how did it impact you?
Yeah, so that communication rule is all around just understanding, like breaking down communication, and one is like words. Like the words are, we always think the words are the most important thing. So we're so like try and be word perfect. But the words are only, I think it's 11%.
Yeah, 738-55.
So then the next is is the tone of your voice.
Okay.
Right? So you can say one word but use a different tone in your voice and it has a different meaning. Right?
Sure.
Like, you idiot.
Yeah.
Or, you idiot.
Yeah.
Right? This is different straight away.
True.
And then the third one is, which is the most powerful, which is the highest percentage in it, is your body language. So your body language, just straight away, even if someone walks up to you, if your body language is a certain way, someone reads exactly sort of where you're at and what your communication, what you're trying to get across, even before you say anything, or they hear your tone. So that is just that was one way of, a really simple communication tool to understand how powerful your tone of voice is and your body language when you are communicating with people. But when you talk about like communicating with other people on the field, like right in the middle, this is one thing that, look, I never realised what I said in the middle. I was trying to help people, right?
Yeah.
When you're batting with someone,
exactly.
You say whether it's like just watch the ball or no, it's okay, like, or maybe now's not a good time to go, like whatever it is, you're just trying to help them out. But the one thing that by understanding like gut feel and around which is gut feels around your intuition and your unconscious mind making a decision around a situation with all the information that has been fed into your eyes and into your body over your life. And your gut feel is just your unconscious processing all that information and coming up with an answer. So it's your gut feel is, I just feel like now with the situation of exactly where the game's at, who this bowler is, what the wicket is, like the pitch dimensions, what the wind is. Without thinking about it, it goes, it feels now's the time it's time to go.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, like, it just doesn't feel like it's the right time to go now. And this is one thing that I talk about quite a bit in these workshops as well, is if you want people to trust their gut and tap into that superpower, that decision-making superpower. So you've got to be very, very careful of the information you do give or you don't give to an individual if they are actually tapping into that superpower of decision-making. So, like, I saw it really, like, it blew me away, actually. When I was coaching at the Delhi Capitals, Rovman Powell was batting with Rishabh Pant a couple of seasons ago, and Rishabh Pant got off to a flyer. He might have been 20 off 10 balls or something, like maybe 8 balls. And then all of a sudden he just went into a bit of a hole. And then he got out, like missed a straight ball, fell over on the ground. I was like, what the hell happened there? Right? And I talked to him after the game. I said, look, like, what happened there? Because you just missed you just fell over a straight one. And he said, look, the words that Rovman was talking to me was just take it a bit deeper. Just take the game a little bit deeper.
Frustrated him.
Whereas he was like, but I feel like I'm flying. I want to keep going. Like, do I keep going? Do I pull it back? And then all of a sudden the ball came out. I was like, and it right. So that's just understanding the superpower of our gut feel, and that's where just being so careful, which I had no idea. Right, you're just trying to help people. Right, when you're batting with people, right, you're helping people as how you feel you can help them as much as you can.
You're communicating what you're feeling at the time. And I watched the highlights of the RCB game in that final the other night against SRH. And the immediate reaction I got, I walked to my wife and I said, I just needed to bat another 2 overs and we would have won that game. So that was obviously the message I gave you, but actually that was my message.
Yeah.
And you must be careful not to tell someone what you are feeling. And that's the only thing that comes to mind. You need to spit it out.
Yeah.
Rather be quiet and just say, back your decision, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know?
As long as it's like, as
Unless
long as they don't come up to you and they're like got the
Yeah.
anxious look and go, I'm going to take him down. Go, Whoa. Just take a deep breath. That's different.
So what's your thoughts on social media with the children? And I know at Delhi as well, you write in the book about some players that would play a lot of TV games and Xbox and sort of mentally arrive tired the next day, and physically would be fine, but mentally tired. And I know we have our challenges with YouTube and all sorts of social media platforms. Luckily, they're not on Instagram and all that stuff yet. But it's definitely a worry. Your thoughts on that and how to counter it, perhaps?
Social media for kids is the longer, I believe, the longer we can keep them off, we're doing them a massive favour.
Because it's also a tool down the line, but
it's so powerful. It's an amazing tool, and I love, because I love learning new things, right? Whether it's cooking or whether it's playing a new song, whether it's about being a better parent, holidays going on. So I use social media. It's all there. Like, they're ready to go, which is incredibly powerful. You can use it in so many great ways. But the downside, one is, as a performer, if you're a bit exposed with your performances, is then the feedback that you get on it, which then absolutely, and then you start digging yourself in a really deep hole. So my advice absolutely is never check the comments, because the positives, that if you have a great day, the positives build you up like you're Superman. So you go out to the next performance like way overconfident, because you just think, I'm flying bulletproof. Well, you are if you're engaged and you bring the best version of yourself, not being someone that you're trying to be someone else. But the downside is when one comment, you can have 1,000 good comments, and one negative comment just means that that's all you think of. Oh, really? Is that me? Oh, God. And then you start digging a deep hole. So that's number one. But the second one, which is the biggest issue that I actually see in society now, especially around performance, is mental fatigue. Because there's so much stimulation now, whether that's scrolling through social media, whether that's just notifications popping up everywhere. There's no still time. So just being super aware of how much mental energy that you're burning, whether that's gaming. Gaming's a really great way of overstimulating your mind, and it takes time and can take days to recover from an overstimulated gaming experience. So if your performance is really important to you, then you need to give yourself the best chance to perform at your best, which means you need to have full stores of mental energy. So you don't want to be burning through that unnecessarily by scrolling through social media or gaming or overstimulating your mind at the wrong times. Sure. So that for me is one of the biggest issues I see, and actually one of the easiest fixes that I have with just about anyone that I work with. Anyone that I talk to, the easiest fix is your mental energy. How are you going to lead up to the games? What are you preserving it? Are you regenerating it through meditation or sleep, and then are you overthinking situations and lead up to a game? So that's the first step that I work with, and you just see like it was for me as well, because I was amazing at torching my mental energy. I was a weapon at that. So that is probably the most important step as a starting point to give yourself the best chance of performing at your best.
Absolutely.